I am recording. Okay. So first things first. I went through Right Clubs. You'll recall it was um, equipable items for an MMO from based on the American Civil War. Um, Oddly enough, I got a couple people. I don't remember this class, the other class. I got some other people, some people who didn't get the right war. Um, so I got some English Civil War, Cromwell. Uh, I got some Trojan War, um, and another. There was another Greek War. I don't know. So I thought I was clear with American Civil War. Um, I even said American because I can understand English Civil War if you're lazy and you're Googling. You just Google Civil War, and suddenly you're in 1684 with Cromwell's rebellion. Um, and if you don't know that much about history, you don't realize you're reading about the wrong war in a different country. So, good ones. Good named items. Gettysburg Gators. The Slacks of Unconditional Surrender, which I'm not sure you'd equip those, right? Um, Robert Lee's White Flag. Um, I like that one because I think that if you were Confederate and you equip that, it would be bad. But if you were Union and you equip that, it would be good. So that's an interesting little mechanic just built into the name. The Sash of Ulysses, which would work for both American Civil War or Trojan War. So credit there. Uh, Pickett's Chargers. Come on. That one's great. Pickett's Chargers. Um, good boots. Um, a nice one because it wasn't kind of weapon or war related. Mrs. Stowe's Quill. And I just see like diplomacy going up if you have Mrs. Stowe's Quill because Harriet Beecher Stowe, abolitionists, dealing with changing hearts and minds rather than killing hearts and minds. And finally, because this was just too good, the Robert E. Leotard. Eh? Robert E. Leotard. Um, so I I don't know what that would look like. I'm not sure it would be period correct, but I want to see it. I'm gonna unmute Karen just because.
No, it's fine.
Eh.
I
Okay.
want to know.
You want me to mute you again? I'll mute you again. You're muted. That's it. Okay. So this week's Right Club. Let me share it. Share. Oh, I almost pressed end meeting. That would have been bad. Okay, so Alt H. Now I got the chat up. Okay, so this week you are going to write Barks for a real-time strategy game based on classic Disney animation characters. Barks are the quick phrases that NPCs say. Sometimes when you get near them, sometimes when you click on them. In RTSs, they're generally when you click on them. In like Assassin's Creed now, whenever I get near a quest giver, suddenly they're much louder than everyone else. there are also these citizen quests that are just random, where it's generally thugs about to beat up a citizen, and suddenly they're like, "Give us the money now!" And then they stab him and run away, and you have to run after him and kill him. So sometimes it's just proximity. Um, but the classic Barks. Oh, you know what? You can't hear. I'm going to stop this share and do a new share. Sorry, because I forgot to share computer sound. Share. So,
Commander, standing by. Jacked up and good to go.
all of these are Barks.
Give me something to shoot. Go, go, go. Let's move. Outstanding. Rock and roll. You want a piece of me, boy? That's the stuff. Yeah. We gotta move. Are you gonna give me orders? Oh my God, he's whacked. I vote we frag this commander. How do I get out of this chicken shit outfit? You want a piece of me, boy? If it weren't for these damn neural implants, you'd be a smoking crater by now.
Okay, so those are Barks from the classic StarCraft. Some of them are fueled up and ready to go. Yep. Some of them are click on Barks. Some of them are I give you a move command. Some of them are I give you an attack command. So to be clear, Disney animation characters. I have defined Disney animation characters. Yes, Disney owns everything. No, you don't have access to everything. No Marvel, no Star Wars, no Fox, no Pixar. These are the various eras of Disney animated films. So Golden Age starts with Snow White, Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, and you can't see it down here, should be Bambi. That's the Golden Age. Wartime era, you don't recognize any of these anyway. It's generally not a good time, because everybody was away at the war. Silver Age is when we come back from the war and we start off with Cinderella, and we really get into Disney princesses with Sleeping Beauty, Alice in Wonderland, 1001 Dalmatians, Peter Pan, what's that one? Sword in the Stone, Lady and the Tramp, and Jungle Book. Bronze Age, they're getting their lunch eaten by Warner Brothers. So they're trying new styles, and they're also trying to cut costs because Warner Brothers is out animating them for less. So you get Aristocats, Robin Hood, all the Poos, the Rescuers, what else? Oliver, Oliver and Company, the Black Cauldron. That's the Black Cauldron. I'm not sure what that is or that is. It looks like something with cats and mice. I don't know. It was a bad time. And then in '89, they come back with Little Mermaid, and we get the Disney Renaissance with Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King. We get Rescuers Down Under in there, but who cares? Pocahontas, Hunchback. Maybe that's Hercules, Mulan, and Tarzan. And then things go to hell again in the post-Renaissance. We get Emperor's New Groove, which is terrible. We get Fantasia 2000, which nobody remembers. We get what is it? Titan AE or Treasure Planet, Brother Bear, the dinosaur one. What are these other ones? Like Chicken Little is one of them, I think. Lilo and Stitch is probably the best of this bunch. Still not primo. And it's not until, I mean, they count Bolt over here because they go mostly 3D. Bolt was okay, so it wasn't until Frozen, Big Hero 6, Tangled, Zootopia, Moana. Those are the new revival. And now they've made, like, there are two versions of this graph. One is 2008 to now, and they've put New Era with Ralph Rex the Internet and Frozen 2 as a new era. They've ended, I guess they ended with what? Wreck-It Ralph or Moana. I would say that Frozen 2 and Ralph Rex the Internet are not nearly as good as Moana. But that's me. No, Moana was not more recent than either of those. Moana was the year before Wreck-It Ralph, or Ralph Breaks the Internet. Anyway, that's lots of characters for you to choose from. As ever, shorter is better. Remember, players will hear this bark hundreds of times. Yes, Moana was more recent than the first Wreck-It Ralph, but not more recent than the second Wreck-It Ralph. You see, the first Wreck-It Ralph is here in the revival area, and the second one is in the new area. Anyway, so remember, before you put something really annoying as your bark, that it's going to be heard hundreds of times. So, for instance, I used to be an adventurer, and then I took an arrow to the knee. Became this meme because people heard it hundreds of times, mostly because they didn't have enough barks for how many guards were in the game. And eventually they patched in many, many more barks for the guards, just so that you wouldn't hear that. Your barks can be move, attack, or just, you clicked on me, what do you want? Remember, and this is another thing, don't just use a quote from one of the movies. Put it in the situation. If Goofy were going to rip somebody's head off, what would he say, right? If Mickey were about to unload a machine gun into a crowd of somebody else, what would Mickey say, right? So that's impressive. Yuck, yuck. Yeah, probably. Although, so the cheap way to do this is just put, cold never bothered me anyway, and be done, right? Because it's a quote from one of the movies. I know who it is. It would probably fit in a real-time strategy game. The way to do it well is to say, what would Mickey say when he's asked to move? What would Peter Pan say with an attack, right? Feel free to identify the character if you want. Hopefully, whatever bark you use will tell me immediately who that character is. And that's part of the purpose of a bark is, I've got a crowd of units and I click on what I think is the correct unit and I get the bark for a different unit. I know I have clicked on the wrong unit and selected the wrong unit. So have fun. It's due Thursday. It's not, don't break your brain over it. Have fun with it. Okay. Next. You've now all played the D&D. Now for next week, you get to write your own Dungeons and Dragons adventure. So this is due Monday at midnight. Yes, Kingdom Hearts does have Disney characters and barks. It's interesting that when was Kingdom Hearts 2 out? Like 14 years ago? It's really old. There was a big gap between Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kingdom Hearts 3. So that's really never been a problem for this class because most people haven't played a Kingdom Hearts or did so long ago. 2005, 2010. I think it's earlier than that. It's interesting if it'll be different this year with the most recent Kingdom Hearts, which is available on Game Pass, which is on my Xbox right now, waiting for me to play it, but I have not played it because I have no time. I am sad. Okay, so you are going to write a Dungeons and Dragons adventure. You are limited to 6 pages, but let me do a share of, not this. Where'd it go? That's not it. This. Okay, share. I don't need the computer sound. Share. Okay, so this is the actual adventure that you are all supposed to read. And you can see that this is 2 columns. This is how Dungeons and Dragons adventures have been written for years and years and years. 2 columns. I think because they originally published them mostly in Dungeon magazine, and this was how a magazine was laid out. Or maybe it was just the 2 columns of the original big books. You know, the big books. The books are this size, right? This is my player's handbook. I was looking today. I was just staring at this, and I'm like, why is Zombie Galactus on the cover of D&D? It's very, I mean, it's very Galactus, don't you think? It's purple. He's got the hat. Anyway, just stray thoughts about D&D. So it looks like this is 1.5 line spacing, not double line. So 1.5, 2 columns, lots of sections to break up my reading. Don't kill me. Please, please, please don't give me an 8-point font to squint at. Also, very common question. Everyone has to write this themselves. Okay? So we're going to have 25 of them from this class. You don't have to write with a partner. Your storytelling with a partner is playing the D&D. Now you get to write one. Do you have to copy the format exactly? No.
Take the liar out of me.
Well, I'm not going to be like, oh, this is the wrong font.
Right,
Oh, you didn't have headers on this, right? I'm pretty chill about formatting, but everybody wants to just cram as much as they can onto the page. Please, please, please don't do that. It takes me too long to read these things.
And you do want the 2 columns, right?
Yeah, I do want the 2 columns. It's easier to read. So 6 pages of text and any maps you need. You can have multiple maps. if you can't draw, get out your favorite art program, just so that there are straight lines. Put a grid. Make sure that it. I get some years. I get when we actually met in person, people would take out like a piece of notebook paper with all the frizz on the one side because it's from a spiral bound notebook. And honest to God, I have seen better drawings from 3-year-olds of some of these maps. I understand not everybody has artistic talent, but you can you're an adult. You can use a ruler and a pencil, right? Doesn't have to be exact, but please try and make it neat. Okay. You do not have to provide player characters. Assume that the players will make their own, or like all the player characters you got to choose from. We picked from pre-made pre-gen characters. You can go on the D&D various sites and say, I need second level characters, and you can get piles of them. So assume that there's going to be basically some kind of fighter, some kind of rogue, some kind of cleric, some kind of wizard, right? Last night we're starting a new maps do not have to be part of the 6 pages. They don't count, just the text. Also, if you want to draw pictures of your cool big bad at the end, feel free. I like looking at pictures. Puts me in a good mood. So if you have never played or worked or written any Dungeons and Dragons before, go with first level adventurers. Assume this is a first level kind of adventure and write for first level. It's easier. You don't have to take as many powers into account. But if you've been writing D&D stuff in your notebook since you were 12, and you've got 4 notebooks full of dungeons that you've written, and you've got this great idea for fairies that turn feral. Hey, are they rooted in the same word, feral and fairy? I don't know. That evil fairies come and just chomp on house cats, and you have to solve the disappearance of the house cats, and you've been thinking about this for months, and it would be perfect for this, but it's for 5th level characters. That's okay. Just let me know that it's for 5th level characters. But again, if you've never written anything before, stick to first level. It's easier. Okay. For monsters, go to the SRD. Let's see, Dungeons and Dragons SRD. System reference document, 5th SRD. Here we are. Oh, this isn't the same SRD as we were looking at before. 5th edition SRD. Here, this one. I guess there are plenty of them. So if we look at monsters, click on monsters. Let's see. Do we have monsters over here? Monsters and foes. Do we have a list? Legendary? No. Huh. Usually there's a list. Well, let's try that other one. Heck with that. Let's go to this one. Combat GM rules, character combat rules, GM rules. Monsters by name. Here we go. Here's all the monsters you could you could want, right? Alphabetically ordered. So a mammoth, we're going to be cavemen. One of the things you want to look at, oh, they don't have it listed. Oh, here, look at the challenge, right? See, this one is challenge 6. That means that one mammoth would be about would be, well, yeah, you could do it with first level party. It would be a hard fight. Generally, a first level character is a challenge rating 1. 4 first level characters are generally a challenge rating 4, right? So if you want it to be a fair fight, you want to shoot for challenge 4-ish, right? So if we go back here and we look at, let's go to goblins. Where's goblin? Here's a goblin. Challenge is 1/4, right? So goblins are wussies, right? Yeah, you should, give or take. It's not an exact science to do challenge rating, to say, okay, this is challenge rating 4. I'm going to shoot for that. So in this case, 4 goblins is challenge rating 1. So 16 goblins would be challenge rating 4. So a 16 goblin encounter is roughly even for a first level party. But what happens if the 16 goblins are on either side of a rope bridge over a 100-foot chasm, right? Well, that's harder, because, geez, if you fall, then you're dead. So that would up the challenge rating. What happens if some of the goblins have flasks of oil, right? That suddenly ups the challenge rating, because now we've got a slippery rope bridge. But there's no kind of indicator of what that does. So essentially, if I had it over a slippery rope bridge, I'd cut it down to 5 or 6 goblins, right? So because terrain makes a difference. If you give them the higher ground, they've got an advantage, or vice versa. If you give them special things like oil or fire arrows, or you mix things around, right? So you have 6 goblins and a wizard all fighting. That you kind of gotta get a feel for it. So I'm not going to be a stickler about this. I'm not going to be like, oh, this is challenge rating 6. That's terrible. You fail. But if it's wildly crazy, like you put, let's go to something you all know about. Where's dragons? Dragon turtle? No dragons? Where's dragons? Oh, brass dragon, red dragon. Okay. So let's look at brass dragon. There's only, look at this. Well, this is a little weird. So brass dragon, it says wormling. So if we look at the challenge for a brass dragon wormling, this is a baby dragon. It would be under A. Wow, that's kind of awful. This is challenge 1, so that's a baby dragon. But if we look under adult brass dragon, then it's challenge 13, and that would kill everybody. What an old No, not old. What's ancient? Ah, there we go. Thank you. Ancient brass dragon is challenge 20, right? So if you threw an ancient brass dragon against your first level characters, then I'd probably say something, because you're off by 16, right? um, but if you're close, if it's reasonable. I'm not gonna get into it about rule stuff. The other thing I'd say is, let's see. Um, let's pick a basilisk, right? Or a basilisk. Um, read a bit about the basilisk, right? If this basilisk was trying to raise an army of the undead in order to take over the kingdom, I'd be like, basilisks are animals, dude. They don't have evil plots. And there are lots of monsters that are capable of having an evil plot. So pick the one that is, because there are lots of monsters. Okay. Getting back to the assignment over here. I'm not a big stickler for rules, but just don't cast monsters in roles they're not. Yes, exactly, Ben. The 2 intelligence basilisk with the master plan is crazy. There's a lot of advice for what to think about when you're writing. As far as your format, again, go back and look at the one you read. What I'm looking for is a brief overview of what's going on. This is kind of also your abstract, where in a paragraph or two you say, this is what's going to happen in this adventure, so that I can read that and decide if I want to read the rest or run the rest if it's more interesting, if it's interesting. Then the adventure hook, how does the how does the party get involved in this? So the standard adventure hook is, you're in a bar and there's a mysterious stranger sitting in the corner, and he has a job for you, right? Now, the interesting thing about the one you played is, first, it wasn't in a bar, it was in a theater. So that should be like, oh, they're trying to change things up. And then once you talk to the guy who supposedly has a job for you, he accuses you of being the bad guys. And as soon as you deny it, he is summarily killed. Right? So suddenly it's a switcheroo, in that the adventure hook is usually some NPC gives you a job to do, you go do the job, you go back to the NPC, he gives you stuff, right? Here, it's NPC says you're the bad guys, is killed, you have to spend the entire adventure clearing your name so that you're not the bad guys, okay? So
there is a question you missed back.
Do we need to include the combat scene and how they go? Yes. The adventure itself. So if I switch over to the adventure, which I will, you'll note the general gist of things in the writing, and you should look at the examples. Whenever there's something for the DM to read to the players, it's in a box. Then there's description, there's text, that the DM needs to know in order to play the scene more or less, right? So maybe the guy that they're talking to has nefarious plans himself, and if we go to an actual, let's go to a combat encounter. Troglav, well, I don't like Troglav Square. Well, let's go to here, this. So Drakewell's Arcana. Number one, you should start with a map. So if we go down here to the maps, here's the map you're given for Drakewell's Arcana. Note this person is not super awesome artist. They're just using graph paper and a reasonable amount of care, right? So we make the map on our 5-foot grid. Yeah, the outline of the guy right here, right there, dead guy. Note that each room has a number associated with it that then I can, our people walk in and it says 1B, and I can go back to my text and look for 1B and get the description of that area. Same with the upstairs 1D. You should label your map so that I can associate the map with your text, right? So if I go back to my text, that's the Zent Ghetto. Going back. Drakewell's Arcana. Here we are. So here's the description that you read to the players. I don't know about the other DMs, but I kind of paraphrase this or add my own stuff to it as we talk. And then what you'll find there, and then here, 2 guards wait outside while a cloak searches for the premises for clues. You notice there's really not anything about the stats of those guards. That guard stat is way down here in an appendix, so that I can have, as the DM, I can have the pages with all the monsters in front of me while I'm running the adventure. The big thing here is if there are standard SRD or monster manual monsters, just tell me how many hit points they have and give me a link to them, and I can go to the SRD and look at their stats there, and that way it doesn't count against your 6 pages. I'm trying to save you space. On the other hand, if you've got a named guy like Sergeant Kalugin here, and he's got levels, he's a, what is he? Challenge 2. He's a 2nd level, looks like a 2nd level fighter, right? Then you have to give me stats for him, right? Especially like down here, Little Wing is our big bad. He is a, what is he? He's like a 5th level warlock. So I have to know what spells he has, what powers he has, what weapons he has. He's got a short sword and a light crossbow. And that way, usually what I do in, let's go to the Storming the Windmill here. Usually right after I do, a description to read, and then and then basically what the DM needs to know that the players can't immediately see in the room. And then I always put tactics, and say things like Little Wing will fight until yes, the appendix does count towards parts of the 6 pages. Little Wing will fight until he's either at half strength, or he's or all his companions are dead, at which point he will flee. Or I just say tactics. This monster will fight to the death because their eggs are here and they're protecting their young. Just a sentence or two to give me, the DM, an idea of how to play them. So there's this whole section here about role-playing Little Wing. Mostly Little Wing burns the plans and then runs. That's how I play them. Because essentially, as a 5th level warlock, I had 4 first level people. He would toast them if they got into a knockdown drag out fight. Maybe they could rush him, but somebody would go down. So so going back to this share. So the adventure itself, then how does the adventure end? Right? How do we wrap this up? So in the case of the one we played, it's either you capture Little Wing and all the papers that exonerate you. You just capture the papers and Little Wing gets away. You have a fight or a chase through everything, and you subdue him. You kill him. He kills you. And then what happens? Can you exonerate yourself if everything is burned? If you kill him, can you still get your reputations back? Do you have to go on the lam? How does it work? So just a paragraph or two on how to wrap it all up. And then the maps and handouts. Maps and handouts don't count towards your 6 pages. All of this does. Okay. What you don't need is all the adjusting the encounter sections, the XP awards, and you can see here, we'll go back to this. There's all this Adventurers League stuff, preparing, what to do before you start playing, how to dungeon master. We don't need any of this. You should start with basically the overview, right? So all of this stuff can go, and then hopefully all of this appendix stuff will just be, it has 15 hit points. See this thing, this entry in the SRD, or you can give me the page in the monster manual where that thing is. And then here's maps. One other way to think about it, let me find, this is a map of the city that shows me where all the other maps are. So if you have a big overview map, and then locate all the other maps within that map, that's a good way to give me a sense of place. So if your entire adventure is going to be a chase through a forest, and there's a fairy ring, and there's a lake with a lake monster, there's a big old tree, show me where those things are in the bigger forest. Are they right next to each other? Can we hear things? Can you use monsters from outside the SRD? You can use monsters from the monster manual or the SRD. That's what I have. I don't want to have to go chasing down or buying books that I don't have. So I check on these things. So I appreciate that you might own 35 Dungeons and Dragons monster manuals from all sorts of sources, but I don't. um, and I don't want to have to go chasing those things down. If you do use those outside things, then give me their entire stat block, but that takes up space. So that's a choice. Is that monster important enough to take up half a page? Right? You choose. Okay. So going back to the assignment. Sure. Okay. I've linked to 2 other adventures. These are free adventures. Go grab them now. They're at the same place as you got the $4 one. They're free. It's part of what Wizards of the Coast is doing for everybody stuck at home during the pandemic. They made these things free until April 20th, which seems optimistic. But I guess they're I don't know. They say every night they make something else free. There's a bunch of coloring books too if you want to get them. But go grab those. Do not just rewrite the adventure that you played with new monsters. Right? First off, the adventure that you played is way too long to fit in 6 pages. Second, come up with your own story. That's kind of the point of it. So then there's another assignment. This one's due Monday at midnight. Then you take that adventure and you turn it into a portfolio page. So every class, there should be at least one portfolio project. This is your portfolio project. If you haven't started a portfolio, you should start a portfolio. You can use whatever homepage creation, web page creation tools you want. This is not a web page creation class. So you can use all the standard tools in Wix, WordPress, Squarespace, whatever you're used to using to make a web page. If you want to do the whole thing in Flash, I'll be sad, but
Sorry.
I'll get through
I
it.
started with Flash.
I did too.
Don't be a hater.
Computers anymore. It's like a liability now. Apple killed it. I blame Steve Jobs, even though he's dead. So your page should include the title of the adventure, a link to download a PDF of this. So you should be able to turn this entire thing, including the maps and drawings, into a single PDF, right? And Word will save as a PDF at this point. So you should, I don't think that's a big ask. Also, you can get Adobe Acrobat through the school. We have some sort of deal with Adobe to get all Adobe licensed products for the duration of the pandemic or whatever. There, you should have a brief summary of the adventure. And then what makes this adventure unique? Why is this adventure better than all other adventures? Right? Tell me why you're special. Why should I hire you to write my Dungeons and Dragons? Yeah, there are plenty of free PDF converters online too. Again, it's not a big ask. And then make your web page pretty. Use your art. If you don't have art, use your carefully designed maps as your art, right? So I've included some examples of portfolios from D&D writers. They also happen to be like novelists. So like this guy wrote the Lost Mine of Phandelver, which is I believe the first intro adventure in the starter kit. He's got this is kind of his resume for game writing and writing. He's got lots of things. You have one thing. So he can be very quick with each thing. You have to make your one thing look really good. Okay, so make your one thing look really good. Go away, button bar. Thank you. Also, I probably should have put this on the other assignment. But this is a video about how to write a D&D adventure with some of the top. Mike Merles is one of the designers of both 4th and 5th edition D&D. And this is a whole interview with, is it Mike Merles or is it Chris Perkins?
Chris Perkins.
Chris Perkins, sorry, not Mike Merles. I don't know why I got Mike Merles. It's Chris Perkins. He's a D&D author. He's got things to say that about how to write a D&D adventure. So give that a watch. It's 16 minutes long. I'm already over time. Okay, so that's a lot. So yes, it's posted in. Is it in this class's Discord?
It's in both of them. I posted it in both of them along with
Okay.
the Monster SRD.
I don't see it in this class's.
I'll check.
Okay. So give all that a look. That's this week's stuff. Now that you've had all the fun of playing D&D, you get to turn it around and write some D&D. Tomorrow I'll be playing Dr. Langeskov, and I wish I could have gotten to Stanley Parable today. I'll get to it on Thursday. Have a good night. I'm going to stop the share. That's a lot of stuff. I feel like I just talk a lot. Okay. See you on Thursday. Thank y'all.